Good evening and welcome to Road to Edo 2024. My name is Egusagbalao, your anchor on the program. But I must tell you that we have with us Oruha Paul Okungbowa, a very dynamic aspirant of the YPP who has distinguished himself on this program. He has been able to tell Edo people what he has in stock if given the opportunity to be governor. This evening is in the studio again. He has a lot to talk about. You can see his unique attire depicting his knowledge and grasp of the ethnic diversities in Edo State. Paul Owoka, nice to have you with us again.
Thank you for...
You want to talk more about this, your unique attire?
There is nothing spectacular. I hinted before that my mandate is to give representation to the constituent tribes that make up the Edo nation.
Okay.
Edo is no longer the Bini thing or an Asan thing or an Afemai thing. The Igbos are hugely here. They have their lives here. They are policymakers here. They are stakeholders here. They are economic drivers here. So are the Deltans, the Urhobos, the Shakiris, the Ijaws. So are the Yorubas. So it would be an abysmal mistake and a failure on the part of any person to assume that it is your tribe that will give you the votes just now. So this is for me symbolic and a way of relating with every tribe that currently make up the Edo nation.
Yes, and recalling what has transpired in previous elections, especially in Lagos, in the presidential election, the Igbo ethnic group, sometimes they could just be the game changer in any election. So relating with them in terms of attire is, to me, is very compelling. But just attire, is that all you've done as a way of giving these different tribes sense of belonging?
No. Let me speak, since you are narrowing my talk on the attire. So let me try and make it the political one.
Okay.
First of all, the Igbos are globally referred to as the Black Jews of Africa.
Okay.
And this is not just in statement, it's in practical. To the extent that as I speak to you, there is a course outline in a Harvard curriculum under studying the Igbo apprenticeship system.
Okay.
The average Igbo man sees money, while the other persons may see differently. And so I have always maintained in this program that until we have a government that has the capacity to create wealth, see, it's not just enough that you are coming to office and then you take whatever you borrow and do roads and tar roads. Until a government has a deliberate policy that can create wealth. When I use the word create wealth, let's not make it too much of an English word. Create platforms where people can run and thrive and make money, and then engage the youths in economic driving projects. That for me is seeming like an Igbo thing. And while I do not give it the attributes of the Igbos alone, the Igbos have shown tirelessly that they are more about wealth creation than other forms of engagements or innuendos. And so just now, if a state government is still borrowing money, the state government is doing nothing other than plunging the people into debt. And as I speak to you, Edo State is usually indebted. According to the Debt Bureau statistics, Edo State owes a lot. A lot. So what we are saying is this: we have brainstormed projects on how we can use staggering ideas to create wealth in the health sector, to solve the perennial problems of the constant strike and the inadequacy of equipment in the state-run public health service centers. We have also brainstormed on how to use insecurity to create wealth and solve security with it. And when we create this wealth, I mentioned the last time that if we're able to run what I'm proposing across 2 million homes in Nigeria, leveraging on the state as a platform to start it, we'll be looking at 864 billion naira generated from insecurity annually. When you have such wealth created, you're not bothered about the IGR or the federal locations anymore. It is then you begin to embark on projects that are the ones the Benin will call Onyonwa. When you begin to triangulate the 3 senatorial districts with railways and then you are bringing rails, it is that there is money. Because when there is money like that, other investors will come in because the projects you are proposing. And when I say triangulate the 3 senatorial districts with rail, it's very possible. It's very possible. As I speak to you just now, there are people that I know that are, if you give me what I'm looking for, this moment, if I become governor today, tomorrow, I will bring a car manufacturing assembly plant to Benin City.
How do you intend to do that?
And it's not just a regular car manufacturing plant, it's an electronic car manufacturing plant. I have had to send some of my folks to China. The person I sent to China came back a month ago. And as I speak to you, we are already working with a community on a land space. That's on individual capacity, talk less of government. But we are currently now seeking partnership with bourgeois, those in and out of government, to see how we can come up with a partnership, because it requires a lot of funding. But when you have such in Edo, for example, that's massive jobs. That's massive revenue coming into Edo State. And as I speak now, the cost of fueling and dieseling cars have skyrocketed. So this alternative, because it's assembled here, will become perhaps of an economic viability and becomes easier. And that's how we begin to churn in revenue into Edo State. We have also demonstrated on this program, the videos have appeared here before, on how we worked on agricultural projects to create wealth, to create robust economy where people will be making a lot of money. Because when you schematize the operations of agriculture and you bring young persons into it, and then even you that is broadcasting, right, it can be a farm owner without even knowing, without even cutting the grass in the farm. It was an idea that I put together that I discussed with the Oba of Benin one time. You see, I'm saying that we have also brainstormed a project on how to not only to solve the cerebral infecundity that has occasioned our educational space, but also to create wealth from it. We have worked on ideas, some of them I test run during Corona, on how you can make commodities out of intellectual enterprise and then create wealth for the teaching community instead of them living from hand to mouth. Because the truth is, just now the scholarly mind are not necessarily teaching in Edo State or perhaps in every state. The scholarly minds have gone for bigger and better jobs. So you have some sort of brain drain in the educational system. Most of the persons in the educational system just now are doing so because of inavailability of better paying job. And when they get it, they bolt. And that leaves some serious cerebral lacuna in the educational space. We are saying that if we create wealth, good folks, intelligent folks, folks who are gifted to impact and transact intellectual enterprise will come into the business of teaching. We have also said that on this program, I've tried to hint on how we can use health, our health system, to create wealth. Some of these things were even things that I've had to discuss with the current governor when he was chairman of economic team. Some of these things I've had to discuss with your chairman, Chief Gabriel Sawa. Some of these things I've discussed with the Oba of Benin. I have, on a personal level, as a young man, as somebody who has no level, let me use the word, because my name cannot open the right doors. I'm just a common human being who has ideas and who is thinking, how do we make these ideas become wealth? And I believe that with the office of governor, it will become relatively very easy. Yesterday, I played host to my former HOD in University of Benin. And then she was my project supervisor. I was telling her how to create wealth with the university. And she said, you didn't say this thing to me earlier. I would have fixed a meeting between you and Professor Salami. I said, I just thought of it right now as I'm seeing you. When you have people who have gifts to create nothing out of nothing, I think the best way we apply our gifts is in the leadership space, because that's where we can push policy programs that can actually change lives.
But I'm going to ask you this question. The incumbent governor, Mr. Gordon Obaseki, actually gained popularity during his electioneering campaign process by informing the people that he will create jobs, 200,000 jobs. And Edo people are monitoring him before the end of his tenure, if he's going to really achieve that or surpass that. Now, what do you want the Edo people to hold you for? Because you talked about so many, you've been able to talk about ideas, health sector, agricultural sector, but you want to pinpoint one policy that you think can revamp Edo or reposition Edo that the electorate can hold on to?
It's simple.
Okay.
Hold me down to wealth creation. Because the truth is until we spread our natural God-given wealth, it will be in the hands and control of some friends of friends, or the rich and mighty. somebody somewhere is actually entitled to what Edo gets, but that never goes to him because those are larger than him determine his fate. I am saying that if you hold me down to wealth creation, I can only promise you, with the God-given ideas that runs in my head, that we can actually use government policies to create wealth. You see, it is good to make promises of, I'll build bridges, I'll build schools, I'll build hospitals, but when the money is not available, it becomes a mere statement or a mirage in itself. But you see, if I can create wealth using state apparatus, then we can industrialize the state. Because I have also mentioned here that our women who use sanitary pad at the end of every month is a source of wealth. Not only will it create job, but remember, imagine if a state does a private-public partnership that is intentional at beating existing brands like Always. I put it to you that our people begin to use that. And the easiest way to beat existing brand like Always is to look at the wealth in sanitary pad usage. Let's assume that 60 million Nigerian women, which of course is low on the statistics, uses sanitary pad at the end of every month. If they buy it for 1,000 around 1,800 or 2,000, multiply that and see the wealth that is going to South Africa from our numbers. I'm saying that if a state, for example, decides to play around, these little things we call little things, but there are mustard seeds that have grown to oak trees. If we, for example, decide that if we make Always sanitary pad, for example, and differentiate it with the existing brand, for example, make a sanitary pad that is therapeutic. In the course of creating the pad, how about just put a thin layer that has an antibacterial, antifungal property? When women know that if they wear it during their period, not only does it do the suction job of absorbing, but it also does clearing and cleaning, and also does a health revamp on their system. Don't you think most women begin to patronize that? Especially when it's comfortable and suiting. That's how you create wealth. Not go and buy it, import it, and sell it. When you buy it, import it, and sell it, the wealth goes to you. But when you create it, a lot of other macro users, a lot of other micro business minds will begin to carry. Imagine if we industrialize Edo to the extent that Edo is producing toilet tissues that can actually saturate the space of Nigeria. Do you know how many times we use toilet tissues across this nation? You must defecate, you must go to toilet. I put it to you that there are more interesting ways to create wealth other than borrow and spend. There are lucid ways to use what's available to get the unavailable. And if you say you want to build bridge from Menge to Irua, where there is money, you will do it. I'm simply saying that when we create wealth, if we stop stealing the wealth that comes and push it to local government, and I said that I'm willing to sign off on local government financial autonomy, it's a demonstration to Edo people that as young as I am, I'm not greedy. I'm not interested in stealing their money. I live within my means. I'm very comfortable at that. I don't drive a good car. I don't drive a status car. But I'm happy that in the job that I do, I don't even do the malpractice where the money is. Because most parents will likely want to pay you for malpractice than to have their children properly educated. I'm saying that there are young people who have distinguished themselves. Go and check my history. I'm not here to gloat. I'm actually a young person in the face of the gladiators in the race. But if you say that you want to compare the wisdom of Solomon to the age of Methuselah, then you've forgotten that God gives grace to people regardless of their status, regardless of their age. I'm saying that the things that I carry in my mind, we can translate it to wealth. If Edo will intentionally trade with the 36 states of Nigeria alone, I'm not even talking of African continent or the Western world. If Edo will intentionally trade, begin to churn out products from Edo that goes out, why do we keep buying books that come from Ogun State? The revenue doesn't stay here in Edo State. So we cannot impact lives. How about we translate this and begin to auto-create wealth? I mentioned some time ago that I can even use the normal boat ride or Uber to create wealth for the state. It is simple. To some, to very many, it is not simple. But I feel and I know that I'm blessed with a lot of gifts and ideas in my head.
Now I'm going to interject again. Let me refresh your memory. Are you aware that previous governments in Edo State actually got involved with setting up firms, setting up companies? Very good example. If you visit Saple Road, you remember the Edo Pharmaceuticals, now moribund. If you go to some other parts of the state, you will discover that there are some companies set up, the fertilizer, now moribund. I think Edo State government has done something about that. the Agbede farm, just the government has done something about that. So many. Are you aware that government has done this in the past?
And they become moribund.
And some persons have said because of the failure of such companies. I say, oh, if you look at the books, government has no business in business. Okay. You've heard of things like that.
Okay, let me say this. Let me try and address it with simple illustrations. Some persons, before now, while I was growing up, you hear that government work now show that they put on, if it's too heavy, throw away. Attitude, character, and people not being held accountable for their work while in government. People just go to government, steal, and find a way to get away with it. What I'm saying is this: how has it been that a Degbe line has maintained transportation?
I would love if you don't mention names.
Yes. Okay, how is it that some transportation companies in Edo have maintained businesses for the past 2 decades, and Edo line owned by government couldn't even work? Are you telling me that the private business person is more concerned, because that's the actual truth here? I'm saying that if we begin to wake up these moribund industries that you have set up, like for example in Enugu, one very not too tall man, his name is Joel, runs the biggest pharmaceutical in the whole of Southeast Nigeria. Spring, just name it. Go to the pharmaceutical, just ask them any Joel product. You'll be amazed what one man has been doing in the health sector for nearly 2 or 3 decades. The question will now be, the people who run this as private business owners, do they carry white blood cell only in their system? Is the red blood cell different from the one that run their system? My brother, when you have people who are stronger than institutions and they find their ways in leadership space, that's what you get. White elephant projects. I have done this. They show it as their political manifesto. But you see, underneath it, what is the workability of this thing you have spent our billions on? Because when you work more, you tend to steal more because there's more funds available for you to plunge into work. Most of these issues of most projects you just cited just now still have relevance till tomorrow. Fertilizers still have relevance till tomorrow. Whatever it is you listed just now still have relevance till tomorrow. So if it has failed, it is the structural placement that ran the project in the first instant that grounded it. And very importantly, the vision bearer never really had visions on how to make the project outlive him. I cannot put my youthfulness out, and before I turn 60, I'm hearing that everything I did has failed. I'm still young. Whatever I do today, I'm alive to reap the fruits of it, right or wrong. And I am saying that people like us who have no room, no talk of land outside Edo, we are the indigenous Edo people, not the strangers who come ab initio to do business with Edo. When a stranger comes to do business, once he or she is done, he or she returns back to their base. It is their base that get the actual benefit of their presence. The late Captain Osa, for example, was a monumental loss to the Edo nation. Right there in his house, it was like a carnival that you can go at any point in time and draw from that well. But you see, when strangers come, you cannot go back to their well. They take their well away. And I found it very interesting to say that for a long time, strangers are doing business in Edo, and they are of Edo origin, and then the moment they want to get into this office, they start renting houses or declaring that that's their house. These people never had voters card here. These people never paid light bill here. These people never paid waste removal bill here. These people do not contribute. And then when you tell me I'm a billionaire, I'm a chairman of this board, I've been chairman of this board, my question is this: what has your board chairmanship translated to fiscal reality for the past decades that you have been board chairman? Because it reflects on your character when you assume office as governor. I'm simply saying that we are home based. We are very concerned about the perennial flooding. We're concerned about how to move lives and how to make lives better. Our scorecard will be that at the end of every year, we created at least 10,000 millionaires and changed the economic landscape for those other big millionaires to become billionaires. It is how robust our ideas is worthy of investment. That is what will bring the investors. Not because I am chairman this or I'm that or my name is this or that. A state is a working machinery of its own. It's like honey and bee. You can't separate ants from the beehive. They must cluster around it. Because the investors you want to brag with are not coming to come and use their money, their personal money, to fix roads and make life better for us. They are coming to come and do business. Imagine, for example, one man is chairman of a particular bank, has been doing business with EDO money all this while. How do you hold such person financially accountable when he owns the institution that has kept the bulk of the wealth? Sometimes we should just break away from our political attaches. I find it quite sometimes I find it offensive that there are people still praying for those who have destroyed their future. Most of our electorates are very, very, for me, for now, very outspoken and very awake to the reality. Because before now, what you find in Edo political space is likened to that young man whose father and benefactor was murdered by his friend over dispute of land. And then that same friend comes to the burial and spray you money and you sing, my helper, oh. Isn't that a transvaluation of the ideal thing? Edo people should get ready to look at their wealth and study their wealth. How often does a young man or woman in Edo ask questions, how much came into Edo State today? We want to run a government that publishes how much comes in every month. We want to run a government that publishes how much goes to every local government, so that you at that local government level can hold the local government heads accountable. That way you begin to see growth and robustness in the local government, because we are not interested in putting the monies in one purse. We don't want to be in charge solely of the resources of the people. If 18 local government leadership actually voted, and they were voted for, and if they were not crowned, I want to put it to you that ab initio they had manifesto. They should have had something that they wanted to engage their people with. But they truncated the political process to the extent that local government is now seen as an appendage to state government, where it now reflects a structure for onward continuation of the masturbation and hegemony in the political space. I find that quite ridiculous, because we cannot grow. When you face the process from sane people who have the capacity to bring the needed change to book, when the process is now in the hands of a few cabal of friends, it moves from office to office, and then what you have is this economic stunted growth. You tell me that Edo currently, I read in the papers that Edo currently has moved up the ladder. Edo is now in value $20 or $20 billion. The question I want to ask is, Mr. Agbonlao, I'm sorry, I'm going to put it to you. Has the money they are quoting right now reflected in your streets? Can you come before your street people to say, see what has been happening? That money. Do you know how much has been squandered in the educational space of Edo State? I mean, there's an ongoing litigation that we are privy to just now.
Before you leave us, we've seen your billboards in Benin City. I've not monitored if you have your billboards in other senatorial.
Oh yes, my friends donated a lot of billboards in Edo North and Edo Central.
So, but we've seen politicians who have actually lamented that, oh, their billboards have been removed and all of that. So you have not experienced that. You want to comment on that? You have any relationship with your
Mr. Agbonlao,
yes.
The first thing I want to say is that may God preserve my life, but I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of anything. You see, it's better you say that was where the young man stood to defend what he believed in, than that was where he ran through when his enemies came for his family. Yes. Do you know that we have reduced our politics to pettiness to the extent that billboard practitioners rejected my billboards at a time? And they said,
billboards are.
Now, let me say. And they said that it was an instruction from above. I faced that. In fact, one of my billboards recently was supposed to be repaid to continue. The practitioner declined to accept for me to continue the usage. A time will come, what you see is only them and their friends. And do you know that as far as this billboard squabbles goes, it dates back to nearly 3 years ago, where the state government decided to start showing interest in the operations of billboard, because that's where they can announce their project, whether real or fake. And then to the extent that some persons in public office, I don't want to mention their office, are practitioners of this billboard now. I had the rights, given the approval by the Ministry of Interior, to have a billboard planted at Mige, because I'm a practitioner. I have some billboards in town. Do you know that they fought me off that right despite the approval from Ministry of Interior? Today, that billboard is being occupied by my guy.
Okay. Well, Paul Oha, the good news is that what I have seen, I've seen your billboards around. That's why I asked.
A recent development, maybe they have compassion, but right now they are paying it off. Okay. They are calling all practitioners to submit all their billboards and they want to pay them off.
Okay. So that is subject to investigation. Our journalists will surely investigate that. I want to thank you for coming on. Time is not always our friend, but good enough. You've been able to articulate your ideas again.
Thank you.
And the electorate will decide. So do have a wonderful weekend, and we thank our viewer. Thanks for being a part of this evening's episode of Road to Edo 2024. My name is Ewusa Agmalao. Bye-bye.